So we'll quickly get into intros now. So my name is Julia. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Nevada Program Director of Solar United Neighbors, and I started this past year. So a lot of this has been new to me. I am new to the solar world and have been doing a lot of learning along the way, from the ins and outs of our energy system in Nevada, to the policies that shape that landscape, both at a federal and a state level. So I'm really looking forward to sharing with you all what I have learned, as well as continuing to learn ever more, as the landscape of the energy world is quite complicated. And I'll pass it over to Jeriel. Oh, you're just getting a good preview of our slide deck here.
I was trying to unmute. Sorry, y'all. Apparently, hitting the space bar is not the way to unmute when you're sharing your screen. Hi, I'm Jeriel Clark Dyer. I'm Sun's West Region Policy and Advocacy Campaigner. I'm newer to the staff, so I've been on for about 5 months, but in my professional career, done a significant amount of work, regulatory and legislative, particularly with helping folks be able to connect to how to engage in the process. And so this is the kind of stuff I love to do. Julia's got a fabulous presentation for you, and then towards the end, I'll just talk about how you can engage and what the value is of that. So looking forward to connecting back in a little bit, and I will not hit my space bar again.
Thanks, Jeriel. So we'll go ahead and just talk through our time together. You'll learn a little bit about Solar United Neighbors and what we do, but then we'll also share some context as to what's before the Public Utility Commission of Nevada at the moment. So there's a rate case as well as a net metering filing that they're considering. We'll talk through what makes an effective comment, and then even go through the process of drafting and submitting your comment if you'd like to do that tonight, or if you'd like to just prepare that for the in-person consumer session in either Reno or Vegas. And then we'll review next steps. Um, and with that, we have another poll question for you. And the second poll question is, what motivated you to attend tonight's workshop? Thanks, Jasmine, for getting that up. And this is a short answer. You can be very brief and say, I was curious and, I don't really know what's going on at the PUCN and want to learn more, or I heard about this rate case and want to get involved. It could be a number of things. Maybe someone, a friend or a family member invited you to come. There's really no right or wrong answer, and you don't need to write an essay. Just whatever comes to mind. Thanks for getting those in, everyone. And we'll give people a little bit longer just because this is not multiple choice. Awesome. Looks like we're at 66%. I'll give people just another 30 seconds and then we'll move forward. All right, we will keep chugging along. Perfect. Thanks, Jasmine. So who are we? Who are we at Solar United Neighbors? We are a nonprofit that works in Nevada, but also 12 other states, and we run bulk purchase campaigns to help make solar more affordable. But we also bring people together through education on the technology, economics, and policies of going solar because it's confusing and complicated. We focus a lot on consumer protection and utility accountability, which is why we're here tonight. Um, and we really recognize that our current energy system is broken and controlled by utility companies like NV Energy that prioritize profits and politicians over justice and communities. So we believe in building a new energy system based on energy democracy that gives power back to communities, supports clean energy, helps local jobs, and improves people's health and well-being. And tonight is all part of working towards that goal through education. Um, in a nutshell, you can see this little nice graphic here. We help people go solar, join together, and fight for energy rights. And so you all are participating in that process this evening, and we're grateful for your presence. And we're taking one step towards building a different future where people can control the energy that they produce and where that energy comes from. All right, so let's give a little bit of context to this current moment. NV Energy has a couple of dockets before the Public Utility Commission of Nevada, which regulates utilities in Nevada. And so they're ensuring that electricity is delivered reliably to customers and ratepayers like you and me in the state, and that electricity costs are reasonable and just. And so they are always looking to balance ratepayers' interests, but also utility interests. And they do that by reviewing these different cases that go before them where the utility will make a proposal. So one of the proposals before them is this general rate case, which is regarding the Southern Nevada Territory. And it's where NV Energy is seeking to increase the amount of money that they collect from customers. And they're seeking $216 million, which is about a 10% rate increase for customers. So this is a big amount, and it essentially is how much profit they're allowed to profit by as well. They are also proposing a demand charge that would be levied on all residential and commercial customers, which is pretty unique. There is not a daily demand charge in any of the other utility territories across the US, or at least there's not a daily demand charge. Arizona has its own demand charge, but it's not daily. And that would be a 19 cent kilowatt hour charge. And we'll talk through the calculation of that in a little bit. And then the other part of their proposal is to move from monthly netting to 15-minute netting, which I will also talk about. This comes in the midst of us learning that NV Energy has been overcharging 80,000 customers more than $17 million. So it's really important that we understand the context of them making this proposal in the midst of a lot of mismanagement on their part and these drastic overcharges that people have experienced. And this was only disclosed through the PUC's efforts to investigate a customer complaint that was sent to them. It was not disclosed by the company. All right, any questions about this? I know it's a little complicated here. All right. Okay. Well, we will keep going. So let's look at calculating a daily demand charge. So this is my data from my energy usage in Reno, and it's from February. And you can see that I am a low energy user. 0.3450 kilowatt hours is not a lot of electricity usage. But we're going to use this just as an example so you can understand how you could calculate your own demand charge. So my highest usage was at 5 o'clock. And so we are taking that 0.3450 kilowatt hour. We're taking that highest usage. And then we will use that in the math in terms of calculating that to determine what that demand charge would be. So you'll want to look at what your highest usage is within a 15-minute interval, and that is what will be captured when calculating this charge. Yes, thanks, Jeriel, for moving forward here. So you can see we take that 0.3450 kilowatt hour, we multiply it by 4 to get that kilowatt level hour for the hour, and then we're going to multiply that by 19 cents per kilowatt hour to get the daily demand charge. And this would happen every day. So it would capture your highest usage over a 15-minute interval during the day, and it would be done every day over the month. So if we would actually have like 30 or 31 calculations depending on the month. For the sake of simplicity here, right, we're just trying to get an average. So my daily demand charge would be, if I'm using roughly that usage, about $7. But it's very easy for this to be triple or quadruple depending on the particular household. And so this would really impact people dramatically in terms of their bill. And it's complicated, right? It's not like an easy calculation, and most people are not tracking how much energy usage they are using at any particular moment. And if for some reason you forget and you have your laundry on, you're running a load of dishwasher, maybe you're cooking dinner and using the stove as well as the oven, all of a sudden you are going to get slammed and hit with that daily demand charge. Um, so we know that this is not really an effective way to try and minimize people's usage, to spread that usage over the day and avoid peak hours. And that's one of the reasons why we are against this demand charge, because there's much more effective tools than this one that NV Energy is proposing. All right, Yes, Melissa asked, so how many additional employees will this take to do all of this calculating? Great question. So that is another thing that we are mentioning in terms of our comments is like, is the system actually set up for this? This would also really hurt installers who really can't forecast. Or excuse me, I'm actually jumping ahead. I was talking about 15-minute netting, but you're right. Is the system set up for NV Energy to be tracking this right now? They don't track this. Good question. They do have smart meters, but you're right. This is going to increase administrative costs, and then that would also be reflected in terms of customers paying for that. All right, we can keep going. All right, so now let's talk about the other docket before the Public Utility Commission of Nevada, which is the 15-minute netting. Now, this is also part of the Southern Territory docket, but it's also being proposed up in the north. And they are changing from monthly netting to 15-minute netting. Now, this is a little confusing to wrap your mind around. But essentially, rather than calculating all of the credit that your system has accumulated at the end of the month and assessing that, they are going to assess the credit every 15 minutes. So if you're producing more energy than you're using in that exact window, you get a credit, but if you are not, you don't get a credit. We liken it to something to the effect of like you're not really netting any credit because it's changing the window to be so small. And this, again, is really difficult for solar installers and companies to try and forecast out for people because a lot of people go solar based on this credit that they are going to get for that excess generation that their system is producing. So it really changes the economics of going solar and disincentivizes more people from going solar. Right now, those credits roll over throughout the month up until the very final day. And so you're able to apply them to times when your system is not producing, right? Like maybe it's the evening hours, the sun has set, and you're watching TV and listening to music. Well, the excess credits that your system produced during peak hours, like at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you're able to then apply those later in the evening. Whereas with 15-minute netting, you can't apply those, right? Because they're being assessed at that 15-minute netting period, and they are being, and I should clarify here, uh, they're no longer being assessed at a one-to-one rate. They're being devalued to 75% of the utility rate because that's what NV Energy is considering them at that point. So essentially, uh, your value that of those credits is being reduced by 25%. Do I need to talk through that one more time? I feel like I want to make sure that folks are understanding that piece. Let's see. Yes, Melissa, this is a strategy for NV Energy to devalue solar, right? And that's why they're looking at devaluing net metering. Because rather than those credits being worth one-to-one, now they are becoming devalued at only 75%. All right. Well, let's keep chatting here. What's at stake for Nevadans? For all customers in Southern Nevada, we're going to see if this proposal gets approved, an increase in that base tariff general rate. Um, your utility bill is going to go up, and it's going to go up also if this new demand charge is approved as well. And both of these calculations are going to introduce new complexity into understanding your bill and being able to manage your energy use. And we also know that what NV Energy proposes in one territory, they will then, and if it gets approved, they will then often try and propose the same thing in the other territory. So if this were approved in the South, it's very likely that they would bring it forth up north and likely get it approved there too for equity reasons. Um, and then the 15-minute netting proposal is for new solar owners, not existing solar owners. But it's really important that we stand united against this, whether you have solar or are just interested in going solar, because we know that when they attack net metering, they continue to attack net metering. We've seen devaluation of even grandfathered systems in California. And so that's why we really want to come out strong against protecting the fair credit that people should be receiving for the energy that they're sharing with the grid. Um, and again, this will make it more difficult for people to predict the payback period that they can anticipate for their system, because rather than looking at the whole month and being able to kind of evaluate your energy consumption and usage for the month and assess like, okay, we can anticipate this amount of credits, it's going to be evaluated every 15 minutes. And it's it's hard to know how much energy I'm going to use within this 15-minute period versus another. Um, yeah, I am not monitoring the chat closely.
Yeah, there are a few questions in the chat, Julia. I can catch you up.
Perfect.
So this will this impact current solar owners if they want to increase their solar panels?
Yes, Kathy, good question. If you do want to increase the number of solar panels that you have, that would restart your contract with NV Energy. So it would impact existing solar owners if you're making a change to your system and adding additional panels.
And will this proposal won't affect anyone who purchased after 2015? Is that correct?
From our understanding, it's for new solar owners, people who are installing their system after October 1st. So that is when this proposal, if it gets approved, would go into effect October 1st of this year.
Great. And Russ had a good question. Has anyone approached NV Energy to create a public panel of solar customers, future solar customers, installers to hold discussions and reach a plan that everyone can agree on?
Yeah, Russ, that's a great question. I think what we are encouraging people to do is to turn out and make their voice heard at these consumer sessions. So there was a consumer session for um, both the Southern Nevada general rate case as well as the net metering proposal in the north. And we did try and get some installers to come out and speak against it. And we are also trying to get as many people to speak against it at this coming general consumer session, both in Reno on the 21st and then on the 25th in Vegas. Usually there can be workshops that the PUCN will host, and that's like more of a dialogue space, but the consumer sessions are really meant to be a space for people to speak and not necessarily be in dialogue. So that's something that we will share more as we learn more about upcoming workshops, but those are scheduled and hosted by the PUCN. So we don't have a lot of um, ability to control when those happen or what topics are on the agenda for them. Great question. All right, I'm gonna keep us moving along just because I want to make sure we get to everything and that you all have an opportunity to prepare those comments. So just to give a brief overview of what's involved in these rate cases and in these filings, quick overview, the Public Utility Commission and their staff. The commissioners themselves are appointed by the governor, but the staff, they are selected just like any other organization is selected, but they are the ones that are reading through all these proposals. These proposals are hundreds of pages long. These dockets can be really complicated. You can think of the proceedings as really following what a court case would involve in terms of the hearings, evidence, the expert witnesses that are involved. It's like very complicated and takes months and months to determine a decision after hearing from all the sides. So one side, you hear from the applicant, the utility that's presenting this proposal. We also have a party, the Bureau of Consumer Protection, which is technically representing ratepayers like you and me. And then we have interveners, who are anyone whose interests may be affected by the PUCN's decision. So that could be a big corporate company like Google, or maybe it's even a casino, like um, the Cosmopolitan, or maybe it is the Sierra Club or Vote Solar. Those are all interveners. They all have a stake whether rates go up, right? And then there's ratepayers. These are all important parties that show up and have stake in a filing before the PUCN. And it's important to know that ultimately the utility should really care about ratepayers, right? Because we fund them, right? We make it so that they have a profit and that they exist. Without ratepayers, then utility companies wouldn't exist. So they need to be listening to ratepayers and they need to be responding to ratepayers' needs and requests. Also, the PUCN has consumer sessions, hearings, and workshops, and these can all be found on their website. It's not the most accessible, which is why we try and do more educational webinars to try and educate people about these upcoming opportunities and to also try and just demystify some of the things. The website, the PUCN website, is a little difficult to navigate, and it can be difficult to comb through these dockets and find particular information. But if you have any questions ever, this is what we're here for at Solar United Neighbors, so please follow up with us, ask any questions that you may have. All right, so let's talk through the timeline that we are at right now. You can see we've moved through those particular consumer sessions regarding the filings, and then they had hearings all the way through July, and now in August, we have these two upcoming general consumer sessions in Reno and in Vegas, where people can share any kind of issues that they have with NV Energy, anything that they want to bring up with the PUCN. But also they could mention, what's going on with these rate cases and what they want the PUCN to do about them, what kind of solutions the PUCN should take. And this is where we have some guidance for you shortly. And then the decisions on these two dockets will be coming from the PUCN in mid-September. You can see that there. And now I will pass it over to my colleague Jeriel, who's going to handle the second half of our presentation.
Awesome. Thanks, Julia. That was a lot of content to get through, and you did it so well. So thanks for that. Yeah, I'm excited. Now we get to jump into a little bit of you all. What can you do, and what is the meaning? Like, what can you do? So, you're joining at the perfect time this evening, because this is really, we're coming to the end of opportunity for general people, consumers, to be able to engage before a decision is made. So thank you for joining tonight, because this is our last best opportunity to really make an impact. So there's a process for how you can submit a comment, and I'm just going to walk you through that really quickly. So in this case, you will want to submit a comment prior to the general consumer sessions. And again, towards the end of this, we will reiterate when those consumer sessions are, so that you know what your deadlines would be. And you can submit a comment online, by email, mail, or you could do in-person testimony. And of course, we'll talk about the effectiveness a little bit of the two. So what happens after you submit your comment is the PUCN staff log your comment. It's entered into the official record. In this case, it will go into the general consumer session record. It will be considered. Even if you can't make it, even if you can't testify in person at these consumer sessions, if you submit that comment by email or online prior, it will be considered and entered. I would maybe caution against mail, just to make sure that it gets there in time, but that would be the only one I might suggest not doing. The commission is obligated to review public comments that are entered into official public record. So they will look at and read your comments. It is an obligation. And then as they're considering the dockets that you've discussed and put into your comments, it is considered on the full record. And so public input, legal arguments, technical evidence, all these different components are weighted, and that's how they make their decision. So I think the most important thing for me that I'd like to convey for you this evening is that there are technical experts, there's legal arguments, all of those things come into play with organizations and entities that are engaging in a particular docket. But they really need to hear from everyday people living and working and having their homes in Nevada, your customers, you're paying the utility costs. There is no more important voice, in my opinion, than they need to hear from than you, because ultimately the cost is passed on to you from the decisions that NV Energy makes. So, with that, I'll move on to the next piece, which is how to give an effective comment. And that's you don't need to be a technical expert. It doesn't need to come from a place of having the exact calculations. You don't need to know exactly what you're producing on a daily basis. You don't need to have those facts and figures. If you want to, that's awesome. If you don't want to, really what is the most valuable from a consumer perspective is offering a personal experience. What's your lived experience in Nevada? How are you engaging and using energy? How do you rely on it? Who relies on it in your family and otherwise? What's your connection to the specifics, the specificities of the case? And are you making a clear ask or recommendation? So, um, these next two slides is I'm going to throw it back to you all a little bit, and we're just going to play a little bit of a game in terms of what makes a good comment and what makes a poor comment. So I'm not making you guess which is the good comment and which is the poor comment here. What I'm asking, and you can feel free to put this into the messages. You can also just come off mute if you'd like and just say, but I'll read the poor comment first. And I'd just love to get some feedback. Why does this make a poor comment? So the poor comment is, I think the 15-minute netting rule is just another scam by utilities. It makes no sense and will ruin solar. The PUCN needs to stop taking orders from our monopoly utility company and do their job. This is ridiculous. So curious feedback. Why might this be a poor comment? I'm waiting a little extra bit just in case folks are typing. Yes, great. Yeah, sounds like an opinion. It's insulting and negative. No detail on personal impact. Yes, not constructive and attacks. Um, yeah, yeah, great. You all are like spot on, right? It lacks clarity. There's no personal stake. It's overly accusatory, right? You're not trying, you're clearly not trying to make friends, and it's rhetorical, and there is no clear ask at the end. That's all perfect. So just to read the good comment out loud, here's what one could say. I'm a solar customer in Clark County and I installed rooftop solar to help lower my bills. Under the current monthly netting system, I've been able to see real savings. Switching to a 15-minute netting period would drastically reduce the value of energy a new solar homeowner could give back to the grid, even if they produce more than they use overall. This change makes it harder for people to afford solar. I urge the commission to maintain fair compensation for solar customers. So same thing. This is obviously the good example, or what I think is a good example, but what maybe makes this comment a little bit better? Yeah, it's personalized with an ask. Seeing emphasis on that one. Argues the case with an ask. Great. Yep. Yeah, great. A couple other things I might add, right? There's that personal context, like you've mentioned, the clear explanation. It's impact focused. It's not overly accusatory, right? There's a constructive tone, and it does make that direct request. So maybe this feels a little bit elementary to go through. You all clearly are like, yes, we know, we're getting it. The reason I'm going through it though is because we just spent the last 25 minutes going through what happens if these dockets are considered and approved. And we're not talking about um, little things here. We're talking about a real impact on families and folks with all sorts of different living situations. And so um, I just really want to make sure that as you're considering, which I hope you are, entering a comment, submitting one, we're trying to make it the most effective possible because there can be a lot of emotion and a lot of anger and a lot of feeling about how a monopoly utility is about to change the costs of your electric costs in an already high cost state. So we won't go through the same exercise here, but I'm just offering two additional comments just to kind of get your brains thinking. um, if you're mad at them, write the comment, Kathy, write the comment, but maybe save the just save a little bit of that heat. I think you can still direct it though, right? It can still be pointed, but just maybe in a constructive way. So here's two more examples of how it might be constructive, right? Again, think about your lived experience. Maybe you are a person who is a working parent and you have a family that you're responsible for taking care of, and you understand what those high costs are, right? You're not Julia utilizing just a little bit of energy every day. You are trying to entertain your kids, make sure they have access to internet and homework, and maybe you work remotely. Maybe there's all sorts of things that you're doing that have an impact on your energy usage, and you know it's going to get real hot, and you're going to have to cool that house to keep your kids safe. Or maybe you know that you live in a community where lots of folks live on a fixed income and there's a lot of retired folks and they just can't afford to have their energy costs continue to rise. And they're in a community where they're really committed to staying and they need to make sure that they can rely on their energy costs. So here's two other examples. Kathy, or otherwise, maybe you're just really upset that NV Energy it's become very public and very aware of the spending and also the overcharging that they have done to customers. Writing and submitting a comment like that is just fine too. Letting them know that transparency and accountability for NV Energy is incredibly important. So I think the way that I would suggest making a comment is the PUCN is making the decision. NV Energy is the one who is sending your bills. And so maybe think about how the PUCN can make the right decision if you're offering a constructive comment, because it's not ultimately them that's sending the bill. They just make the decision. So have a lot of stake. Okay, I think, unless there's any questions, I'm going to move forward. And we do say, oops, I clicked the wrong screen. We're going to drop a template in here so that you have an opportunity to really understand how to draft your comment. We're not going to spend a full 10 minutes on here right now talking about drafting your comment or working through that. We're going to let you do that a little bit separately because we do have some really important meat that we want to get to at the end of this webinar so that you understand exactly the next actions that we'd love you to take. But we are going to drop in that template for you so that you understand exactly what it's formatted like. I'm not sure how many of you have engaged in submitting testimony to the legislature before, how many of you have offered a comment to the PUCN before. Joining this meeting this evening is like the most awesome first step. And we just really want to help you all understand it's actually really easy to engage. And in fact, this is one of the more low stakes ways to engage. And I'll tell you a little bit why more here in a moment. But with that template, you'll be able to see how you can craft and form that letter. And you always want to start by introducing yourself, who you are, and how you would be impacted. And then, of course, consider sharing these bullet points that we highlighted in some of those comments before. Really quick, important note, and we do have a template that shows exactly how you can save and submit your comment because it is a little bit complex. So the way that it works is you have to submit a comment as a PDF. Can't be a Word doc, can't be a Google Doc, it has to be a PDF. So once you've drafted your comment, you'll want to save it as a PDF. So we have a little one-pager that kind of helps guide you through the process of how to submit online, just so that it's easy and user-friendly for you, because the PUCN and I would say many regulatory authorities across the US are not user-friendly in making it so that consumers and customers can actually participate in this process. And I think a little bit they count on that. So we want to make it easier. But there are two ways that you can do it. You could submit yourself via the instructions that are linked in the chat. Or if it's just like a little bit too complex and you don't want to have to deal with that, then please feel free to send your comment to Julia. Julia will not alter or edit your comment in any way, but Julia can submit a comment on your behalf. And the way that that works is she simply says that she's with Solar United Neighbors submitting this comment on behalf of you who wrote and drafted the comment. So it is acceptable for us to do this. We're familiar with it. And if you'd like to take any of the guesswork out and make sure that it happens, we're very happy to do that for you. Jasmine, I see you came off mute. Maybe. Oh, Jasmine did not come off mute. My screen just changed a little bit. Okay. So that's it. After you submit your comment, you can rest easy in knowing that whatever was discussed this evening, or maybe something that you are already aware of, you were able to offer your input and your thoughts there. And so the
And I did
next,
just want to say, if you do want us to like offer any feedback for your comment or review it, we are also happy to do that. If you want to send it to us and ask any questions, happy to offer any recommendations and review.
great. Thank you so much, Julia. That is a very important note. Okay. So after you submit your comment or you send to Julia to help support and review, we want to invite you to participate in one of the upcoming general consumer sessions. So again, if you can only submit your comment in written format, that is awesome. Thank you so much for doing it. If you are available to attend in person, that is also fabulous, and we'll just talk a little bit about why. So, you know, it's one thing to read a comment on paper. Again, very important. It's another thing to be confronted with that person, to hear them in front of you, to hear their comment, to understand that lived experience. And maybe you even have a slight tremor in your voice. Maybe you even have a little bit of anger, or you're a little bit anxious because you've never given a comment in a public format like that before. That's huge. That's a real person who's about to be impacted by this decision that they're about to make. And they then have to go home and be confronted with that thought. And of course, the more people that show up, the more people that do that and engage, the more that's what's at top of mind for the commissioners as they're making this decision. Julia, did you want to offer anything?
Yeah, and I would just say that they recognize that you're taking time out of your day, right? It says something to drive down to the Public Utility Commission of Nevada and be there. And also not everyone's able to do that. So that's why we need lots of different voices, lots of different ways of making our voice heard. But if you are able to, we would love to have you with us. I will be there and would love to join you.
Yes. So the last piece that I'm going to share with you all this evening is just what that expectation could look like, so that you just have a little bit of a foot in the door if you've never done this before and you're considering it. So the commissioners always hold their sessions in a public location. So it's either a city hall, a library, maybe it's their office if that's the location that they're at. And so you'll see in the next slide the locations where these will take place, the two of them. The PUCN commissioners, the staff, will be seated at the front. There may be a court reporter or someone transcribing the session. And you'll be joined by other members of the public, other utility representatives and advocates, including staff from Solar United Neighbors, because Julia will be there. When you have an opportunity to speak, if you'd like to speak, there's a couple things you can do. You'll just sign in when you get there and indicate that you'd like to speak. So you'll sign in, say that you attended the session, indicate you'd like to speak. And then a facilitator throughout the meeting, once they get to this portion, will call your name and it will be your turn. So you'll walk up to the podium or speak into a microphone, and you'll be given 3 minutes to speak. So if brevity is something you struggle with, you might want to practice a little bit. You do get cut off at the 3 minutes. You can just read your written comment. Even if you already submitted it, you could read your written comment so that they have it in that oral format. Or you can let your submitted written comment stand on its own, and you could offer additional thoughts if you feel like you want to offer something additional in the moment and you're confident in what you want to say. Here's the part where it's the easiest way to engage. You will not be asked questions or challenged. This is not a time for debate. This is just an opportunity for you to share your perspective as a utility customer. And then your statement becomes a part of the official record, and you're good. You can listen to what else happens. Some best practices there are, of course, keep it personal. Talk about how the rate case affects you and your household or your community. Keep it simple. Again, you don't need to have that technical language. Just speak clearly and from the heart. If you want to have technical language, of course, and that's where you feel comfortable and familiar, that is just fine too. You can dress comfortably when you arrive. You do not need to be overly dressed. This is a pretty casual format. And if you're nervous, of course, practice once or twice beforehand, or bring a friend to support, because we would love more support there. Maybe they'll be motivated to stand up. Maybe they'll want to also offer something. And having someone to support you is also incredibly powerful in a moment. So those are just our little tips and tricks for what you can expect if you're able to show up for a session. And again, you'll be supported there in person too, with Julia and other folks who are there for the same reason. So with that, I think I'm going to pass it back over to you, Julia, to finish us out for the evening.
Thanks so much, Jeriel. So now we just have a slide that is dedicated to signing up. If you would like to join us in person, either in Reno, which is on August 21st, that general consumer session, and that will be at the Washoe County Commissioners Chambers. And you can read a little bit more about what to expect from that as well as sign up for that by scanning that QR code right there. And then the same is also true about this other QR code on the right that directs you to the Mobilize link for the Vegas General Consumer Session, which is happening on August 25th. There will be a press conference directly before the Las Vegas Consumer Session. So if you're interested in being part of that, you can join and get fired up. It's a great opportunity to hear from other partners. We'll also be having a solar owner who's going to be speaking at that. And if that's something that you're curious about doing in the future, we would love to connect with you and talk about that. We do a lot of prepping people for comments that they make during these press conferences and want to help people feel comfortable in that space. There's also another opportunity to make signs with our partner at the Nevada Conservation League on the 22nd of August in Vegas. And if that's an opportunity that you're interested in, go ahead and just put your email in the chat. It's all right if you don't think you'll be able to make that. I think that's in the evening at 6 p.m. I don't have all of the information in front of me as we just learned about that opportunity, but if you would like to learn more about that, I can follow up with you online about that. And if yes, I will put that in the other follow-up email. Thanks, Melissa, and then everyone will have it. Great idea. And then just the other thing that I want to say here is that yet again, lots of different ways of weighing in for these general consumer sessions, whether that is attending in person, or maybe it's even just talking about what you learned tonight with a close friend or family member, really spreading the word because a lot of people don't know that this is happening or how they can make an impact and affect the decision that is before the Public Utility Commission. Often people don't even know that the Public Utility Commission of Nevada exists. Um, Talking about it, but also if you're curious about writing about it, maybe posting on social media or being interested in writing an op-ed along with Sun, we're happy to help you craft that statement or those remarks, and we will often talk to folks, just interview them about their experience of going solar and what net metering has meant for them, this excess generation and their investment in their system, and then create something together that then is an educational opportunity for others who maybe don't know about that to read more about. Um, so given that, we have one more poll question for you, and that is about action. And so this poll question is, what actions will you take after this workshop? And you can go ahead and select all that apply for you. And we'll just give people couple of couple minutes here to select. And Melissa, that is great. I love that you would love to write a piece with Sun, so I will note that. Great. Looks like people are starting to work through this. Thanks for doing that. Awesome. We'll give people just another 30 seconds here. Yeah, and great to see that some people are selecting invite two friends to join you at the consumer session, right? Sometimes it's so much more fun to go with someone else and grab a drink beforehand or grab a drink afterwards. It's good for us to do this collectively, and it makes it a lot easier when there are many of us. Yeah, also very excited to connect one-on-one with folks, just because I value that and want to get to know folks who are interested in this. Yes, Shalise, thank you so much for asking that question. It's confusing, and I would love to share you some information on net metering. Happy to do that. All right, we're going to go ahead and close that poll just because I know we're coming up on time, and I think we have just one more slide. And this is just next steps. So tomorrow you will receive an email with the recording, the slides, as well as resources, including the opportunity to connect with the Nevada Conservation League about making signs ahead of the press conference in Vegas. And then I will also try and respond to everyone who filled out the survey regarding actions and just follow up with you all about those actions, whether that be scheduling a one-to-one or posting on social media, because we have some resources around that. So just before we go, we have our last poll question, and this is really about just helping us determine what is most useful and interesting for future educational webinars. And that's really around like, what do you want to learn about our energy system or solar or sun or, yeah, better understanding your utility bill. Are you able to read your utility bill? not everyone is. It's confusing, right? Would that be something that is of interest? Or, there's all this buzz about data centers and like, how will they affect my utility rates? Are they going to impact Northern Nevada or Southern Nevada? What's going on with the status of federal clean energy tax credits, or maybe even solar for all funding? These are all, I think, really pertinent topics that we are following, and we would love to offer some webinars if that is of interest to folks. And if there is another topic that's not listed here, go ahead and put that in the chat. And Anne, I'm also seeing that you are interested in that same info. That's great. Perfect. We will follow up. Yeah, there are no dumb questions here. We actually have a no dumb questions channel as part of our organization's Slack, just because it's a lot to learn, and we all are new to it at one point or another. No one, I think, grows up understanding our energy system or how net metering works. Um, all right. Thanks again, everyone, for joining. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy lives to learn about what's going on in our state and how to advocate for solar and affordability and utility bills and rates that are fair and just for everyone. So I just want to give you all a round of applause for being here and taking the time to join us. And we look forward to working with you and collaborating with you as we advocate for a more just and fair system here in Nevada. Thanks so much.